All right, making a video now for Mr. Pete, AKA Tubalcain, and he was making a series of videos on making a lead hammer, which I thought was pretty cool. And they make molds for that, but you want to buy them, they're expensive. And he made one out of aluminum because he makes his own castings, so he made a wood pattern. Then he made a plaster mold. Then he made, from the plaster mold, he used that as a pattern and made a pattern, or a casting out of aluminum. So he had a block of aluminum, 2 blocks, put them together, and that was his mold for making lead hammers. He put a handle in there. He had a little pour gate. He heated up the lead, poured it in. I mean, it's like not rocket science at all. It's very easy. But he mentioned on his video that he used some of my videos and some of my ideas for making the little molds, and I wanted to comment on that. Now this is a flash that I made up for small stuff, and it's just 2 L's, and you just put them together like this, clamp them, and I wax them, clamp them around the mold, around the pattern, and pour, and that makes a mold. Take them off. What I did on I forget what I was doing. Oh, on the core box, I used this, and basically what he did, he just screwed them on there and screwed the other one. Now I paint them with a lacquer paint, and then I use the urethane wax that comes with the Repro, and I paint this stuff on there. BCC makes it. Here it is. Anybody wants to buy it. And you put it on. This is my 2nd can. I went through 2 of these over a 3rd can, maybe even. I can't remember. But you put that on, and then I mentioned before in another video I just did that I use this brush here. Okay, and I got these brushes. I got a couple of them. I had 3 of them at one time. Now I'm down to 2. One fell apart on me. And what I would do is take the mold, and like this is a mold here for a coupler, for example. Okay, there's a mold for a coupler. You can see it's all in there. And when I put the wax in there, I put it in with a brush, put it all in, and I let it dry for a few minutes. And then I take this brush, and I kind of take, what it does is it takes the excess off. And I learned this method, oh geez, back in the 60s. One of my girlfriend's sister's boyfriend got me a job at the Atlantic Mold Company. Well, it wasn't molds like you would know for injection molds and machine work and all. It was mold making, plaster molds that they made a figurine out of clay, and it's some of the way I learned some of the processes. They make molds over it, and they make a master mold, and then from there they make half the things, half the pixie or the Christmas tree or whatever is on there, and then it has sides that went on. We put these huge rubber bands around it, and we had just a pot and a soap, and put soap on there, soaped up everything, and then when it dried for a few minutes, we took this thing, kind of buffed them up, and it took all the marks out of it. And you put them together, big rubber bands around there, and then we mixed up plaster, and it was actually, we used, the molds are made out of, the masters were made out of hydrocal, which is harder than plaster, and then we made the molds out of plaster, and you poured the stuff in there. When it set off, you screeded it off, you weighed it, you broke it up, let it dried a few minutes, and then you trimmed them up, and that became a ceramic mold. When they put them together, they poured slip in there, which is clay and water, and they let it sit for a few minutes, and as the plaster pulled away the moisture out of the clay from the surface of inside the mold to the center. And I always wondered how to get hollow. Well, what they did was you would just pour out the excess of the piece would stay in there hollow. And you wait a little bit longer, you pop it out, and you have your clay hollow figure. And then you do whatever you want from there, fire it, paint it, whatever. But the point was that I used this right here, and I buff it out. Now, just as a precaution, I'll take it over to the air gun, and I'll very lightly shoot it and blow any excess out of there. Now, he used Vaseline, and back in the day, that's what I used, Vaseline. But I don't use Vaseline anymore. I have that stuff. But Vaseline certainly will work, but like he mentioned, and that's why I pointed at this video, was that he put it on with his finger, like this, and it left all his fingerprints. And that plaster will pull up those fingerprints and the smear marks, not really fingerprints, but the smear marks. And the Repro will do the same thing, because it's that sensitive. So the suggestion would be to just buff it out with this, or use a air gun, blow it off a little bit, or for the Vaseline deal, just take a little heat gun or a hair dryer or anything, and by putting the hair dryer on there, it's going to like smooth it all out, and they won't have those marks anymore, and that will work. As far as making plaster molds, I don't think I have it here, but I made one. I showed it in another video. It was a core box. It was a black core box with a red impression. That was plaster. That was one of my first ones that I made. And you might see wheels and different things around the shop here that were some of my first patterns and castings I made. Pretty crude by my standards today. And I used plaster back then, and I found it to be okay. I went to the hardware store, bought a big box of plaster, came home, mixed it all up and poured it, and did all that mold plaster. It works fine, except that the problem I have with it is that, and Mr. Pete, you'll agree with me on this, I'm sure, because you said you let it dry for a whole week. Well, that's a big problem. You got the time and you're doing it as a hobby, fine. I'm trying to get the job done. I don't have a week to wait for the plaster to dry. Secondly, I believe the plaster might shrink a little bit, and I don't want shrinkage. Now, this stuff that I'm using, the urethane, the BCC urethane Quick Cast 2, which is $67 or $70 a gallon unit, which is about a gallon and a half. Because you get a little more than maybe 2/3 in each gallon pot, and mix it up. You saw me use that in other videos. The thing is, with that, it only shrinks 3 thousandths per inch. So over 12 inches, 3 times 12, 30, like a 32nd of an inch over a foot. Now they have other shrinkages too, even less than that. I think it's 3/10, not 3 thousandths. So it only shrinks about 3 to 5 thousandths for a foot. So it's pretty good. And it does shrink, because I tried to put stuff back in it again, it don't quite fit. It shrinks down. But that's okay. Can't be any worse than anything else shrinking. So I wanted to thank you again, Mr. Pete. I'm sure you're going to watch this, about your comments and compliments that you've given me, and it really, really makes me feel good. And I'm worth to do this. I don't charge for it, and maybe someday I will, but I'm not really into that right now. It's basically to help sell my products, and also to help other people in the hobby with pattern making and things that are kind of like a little shady, you know, like you do with your machine shop videos. So, by the way, I'm going to get in touch with you regarding the use of some of your videos, and explain or refer to your videos on my videos. And I don't think you have objected to that, but I want you to know that instead of me just retracing the same ground you did about how to lay the thing out and how to put the chuck in a machine and drill a hole and all of that, I'm just going to refer your different videos in reference on my videos about when I chuck up the wheels and do other pieces on the 040, because I want to have a video on the 040 on how to do some of the parts as an additive to the casting kit. So with all of that, then this now finishes up the entire series on pattern making and cylinders. Not so much pattern making, I'll do some more. I got a couple others I want to do. But it concludes the series on the cylinder pattern. and which is hanging up on the wall over there. And it's going to go to the foundry in a few months, not right now. And that's it from here. So thanks again for watching, and all my peeps out there, thank you very much. And we'll see you again on the next video.